my question is regarding the change in GE's executive compensation that happened, and any advice that you would give to future leaders for aligning CSR with profitability.
Perfect, okay.
Mine's somewhat similar to the other one, but it's regarding to not just conflicting, but when an organization or you yourself as a leader have an ethical failure, what's the proper way to handle that? Because we're seeing a lot of that right now.
Good question. So I would say the benefit I have running GE is that there are. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, one last time.
We have a session this afternoon on transforming healthcare and sort of what you view as the major thing that we should be looking for in the future.
Okay, these are great, man. I think what's implicit to running GE is that you know that the culture of the company is about longevity. It's about the fact that the entity is bigger than any individual, and so ethics always win. You know, I just, you know, in other words, I know that 9 chairmen in 130 years means every now and then you could survive a punch in the nose and make it out the other end. I know that. Implicit, my board reinforces that. So in the end, you know, the choices you say, you know, not that they're all that easy, but, you know, there's nothing that you can't say no to and still have a great company, and so ethics win, number one. Number two, when I stand up in front of the top 500 people in the company every year and I give a speech about the company, I tell those people that one strike and you're out. You know, in other words, at the top of the company, there are no second chances, none, zero. It's one strike and you're out, and we'll find you. And there's no like ombudsman. There's no court of adjudication. It's one strike and you're out. If you're an hourly worker, you know, you've got an adjudication process. If you're a leader, you get close to the line, you're gone. So that's that one. Executive compensation. You know, I've always believed on executive compensation that it's really about transparency. It's about working without a contract. It's about performance, pay for performance, and it's about judgment. And I would say in some way, shape, or form, many people do the first ones right. I still think that the CEO ought to sit down with the board every year and just say, you know, if I'm doing okay, if I've done these other things right, what's the right way to think about a number? And you know, guys, a CEO of a publicly traded company that's got, you know, I got hundreds of thousands of great people that work for me. I shouldn't make more than $20 million, you know, right? It's just period. Period. Now, you say, oh, you're starving. You know, what a horrible way. There's just a right number that you got to sit down and say, what is the right amount to make? And I just see too often people, you know, use formulas and things like that, but they forget about judgment. And your own personal reputation, your own personal judgment, that is very important. And in the end, look, it's my name that goes in the proxy, and I don't want to do anything that, you know, makes me personally not be able to look in the mirror. And that's on me. That's not on anybody else. That's on me, number two. ECO is a great initiative. ECO is a great way to make money and solve a societal problem. There is no crime in that. My contention is that's a great thing. If you can profit solving some of the world's toughest problems, that is a great thing. We've been very successful in Eco-Imagination. We'll do $17 billion in revenue this year. I think the one thing you talked about on media, or the one way to branch it out, is how do you take it to India? How do you take it to China? You know, if we can ever figure out a way to take meaningful technical change around the environment and take it to a place like China and India, it'll both multiply our capability, multiply our profits, but also will make an even bigger impact, I think, broadly on society. And that's the way I think the next step on Eco-Imagination can be built. Lastly, on healthcare. Healthcare, I think, is about doing a couple things personally, I think that the next president can't tackle healthcare because it's just so gosh darn hard. It is really hard. I mean, there's things you can do, but it is really hard. But if I would give somebody advice on maybe 3 things to do, one is to pay for the uninsured, because we already pay for the uninsured. We just do it in the least economic way humanly imaginable. So you know, that's a no-brainer, I think. The second thing is to differentiate reimbursement based on quality. The government is about a $650 billion payer in healthcare. If they did one thing, if they said, look, we're going to have transparency around all the metrics, and if you have a higher quality score, you get 10% more for that procedure than a lower quality score. You get consolidation of healthcare, you get better quality, you get lower costs, number 2. And the third thing is broadly embrace and endorse information technology across the healthcare system. If the next president did those 3 things, and those 3 things only, you'd have a better healthcare system in the next 10 years. But it is a hard one. Look, Bruce, it was I enjoyed being with you. It ain't a bad time to be in business school, to be honest with you. It's an easier time to be in business school than it is to be a CEO of a public company, I can tell you that much. But don't be discouraged by what you're seeing. Be optimistic that you can lead the change and make this a much better place, because I believe you can.
One last thing I'd like to do is to introduce Mr. Ed Botwinick to come forward. And I understand that he feels we've